What's going on, everybody? Josh McCarty from Built in Buffalo, and we are going to talk all about day one of NFL free agency's legal tampering period being open. The Bills were active on Monday. They lost a couple key players, including a longtime starter on the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to get into it all right now and talk about what the Bills can do going forward to fill some of these holes, and also talk about what they've already done to fill some of the holes they had to address this offseason. I want to start with Tremaine Edmunds. He is no longer a Buffalo Bill. He is going to the Chicago Bears on a 4-year, $72 million deal, 18 and a half average per year. That is interesting because when you look at the other linebackers that signed today, you had Jermaine Pratt, Bobby Okereke, David Long, TJ Edwards, Alex Anzalone, Eric Kendricks, all those guys came in at 10 million APY or less. So Tremaine Edmunds was not only at the top of the linebacker market, he was almost double every linebacker that signed today. I love Tremaine Edmunds. I think he is greatly underrated by a large segment of Bills fans who claim all he does is make tackles 10 yards downfield. That is not the case. He is a huge asset in coverage. With that said, I don't think it would have been smart for the Bills to invest 18.5 APY into Tremaine Edmunds when you already have an expensive off-ball linebacker on the team in Matt Milano. I don't mind that the Bills let him go to Chicago, given that this was the deal he made. And when you look at the other linebacker deals that happened, I can tell you that if the Bills had signed him to this deal, it would have been a bad feeling all day long seeing guys like David Long, TJ Edwards, Jermaine Pratt come in at half to even a third of that as the day's gone on. So it stinks. It's a player we've all rooted for. He's still very young. He is going to be a pillar of this Bears defense going forward, but the money was just a little bit too rich for the Bills. Now, what can the Bills do to address the linebacker position? There have been a lot of linebackers signed on day one, but there are still some very intriguing options out there. Drew Tranquill was the starting linebacker for the Chargers last year. He's kind of a one-year wonder only because last year was the first chance he got to get on the field for the Chargers, but he played very well. He is a very good athlete. He excels in coverage, and in his mid-20s, he's somebody that can be a long-term answer for the Bills at the linebacker position. If you want somebody that's a little older, more of a short-term answer, Levante David and Bobby Wagner are both out there. Ryan Talbot from New York Upstate did confirm on Monday that the Bills have reached out to Levante David. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that anything is imminent, but what I can tell you is if he's reaching out to Levante David, it tells me that he at least has his eye on this linebacker market. I would not be surprised at all, especially when you look at how some of these linebackers are going at 6 or 7 APY if Brandon Beane doesn't find himself a veteran linebacker to fill in for Tremaine Edmunds. The Bills did make a big signing on Monday. Connor McGovern to a 3-year, $23 million deal. He's a former third-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to come in and play guard for the Bills. Now, I had predicted that if the Bills were going to splurge in free agency, it would be at guard. And here is my reasoning why. When you look at this roster heading into 2023 and the needs that were on this roster, guard was really the one position that the Bills had nobody on the roster that you could even talk yourself into being an in-house answer. They had to find an answer outside the building to start. When you look at safety, you can talk about Cam Lewis, who the Bills brought back today. You can talk about Christian Benford. You can talk about maybe DeMar Hamlin. When you look at linebacker, Terrell Bernard is a third-round pick. There can at least be belief in the building he can grow into that. At guard, it was really Ike Botker a little over a year removed from his ruptured Achilles, and that's it. So the Bills had to address guard, and I believed all along Brandon Beane did not want to put himself in a situation where he was going into the draft having to find a starter at any position because that can pigeonhole your first-round pick. By signing McGovern, the Bills have a starter at guard, and it frees them up to go best player available in the draft. So what kind of player did they get in Connor McGovern? They actually got the exact kind of player that I thought the Bills were going to go for. Now, I had targeted Dalton Risner from the Denver Broncos as the guy that best fit the Bills, but Connor McGovern is a very similar player. Connor McGovern is a freakish athlete for the offensive line. He has an over 9 RAS score, and he has great agility. He is a much better pass blocker than run blocker. All of these things are very similar to Dalton Reisner. And when you look at the way the Bills have built their offensive line under Aaron Kromer and Ken Dorsey, it is athletes across the board, all with very good RAS scores, especially on the interior with Ryan Bates and now Connor McGovern. I would expect Connor McGovern, who did play the majority of his career in Dallas at left guard, to be a right guard for the Buffalo Bills. When you listen to people in Dallas talk about McGovern, they do say he did his best work at right guard. And when you compound that with the fact that Ryan Bates seems to be more of a natural left guard, that makes a lot of sense to me. So let's look at the year Connor McGovern had. According to PFF, he was the 13th highest rated guard in the entire league in pass block rate. Now, where he struggles, 79th overall in run block rate. Now, there was no perfect guard out there on the free agent market. I liked Dalton Risner, but I think you would have had to go over 10 APY to get him. Nate Davis, who I also was a fan of, got 3 years, 30 million, 10 APY from Chicago. Ben Powers got a 13 APY deal. I know there were a lot of people that were a fan of him. I was not. This move from a cost perspective, from a stylistic perspective, makes a lot of sense for the Bills. And I think it locks them up to where we have a good idea who their starting four are going to be, with Dawkins and then Bates at left guard, Morse at center, and then McGovern at right guard. And we will see what they do at right tackle. I still anticipate they will bring in a veteran to potentially compete with Spencer Brown. But if nothing else, really shore up that depth swing tackle role that was a bugaboo for the Bills last year when David Questenberry had to step in for Deion Dawkins. The Bills will also be in the market now for a new backup quarterback. Case Keenum signed with the Houston Texans. So a couple names out there that I like for the Bills that make a lot of sense when you look at the fact that Brandon Beane is somebody who, once a veteran, somebody with starting experience. A name I like is Kyle Allen. He has 18 starts in the league. He has a positive touchdown to interception ratio. He's very good friends with Josh Allen. You see them hanging out in the offseason. That makes a lot of sense to me. He is not going to be an expensive player. Other guys out there with starting experience that would be interesting to me on a low-cost deal: Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, and Buffalo fan favorite Andy Dalton. All those guys I think would be very solid additions for the Bills. We did not get any news on Jordan Poyer on Monday. It was quiet, and there were some safeties that signed. Both starting safeties from the Bengals have left. Von Bell, 3 years, 7.5 APY. Jesse Bates, 4 years, $64 million deal. I don't know that that tells us a lot about what Poyer's market is going to be. I think it would be a little closer to Bell's at like the $7 to $9 million range. Right now, all is quiet on the Jordan Poyer front. I would anticipate maybe Tuesday or Wednesday we start to see some movement there and we have an idea there. I still think there is a chance the Bills are in play on Poyer, but I certainly wouldn't put my money on it. I think Poyer is going to find himself somewhere else this offseason. Starting to get the feeling that maybe that's not going to be Miami, though. And we'll just have to see. Philadelphia, Kansas City, very interesting spots for Poyer. The Bills freed up $32 million in cap space late Monday night when they did what we all expected, restructured the contracts of Von Miller and Josh Allen. That just helps the Bills get back into the positive, helps them be able to do business. I know there was a lot of excitement when you see Ian Rappaport tweet the Bills have freed up $32 million in cap space, but this was really a necessary move, as they were still about $10 to $12 million over the cap, even with all the moves they made. They just had to get back in the positive. The Bills can still really do what they want to in free agency, but they are going to have to pick their spots. They also reworked the deal of Nyheim Hines. That was one of the first moves they made on Monday, freeing up about $1 million. Hines is back in the fold for the Bills in 2023. He will be the kickoff and punt returner. I also think there is a good likelihood that he is your number 2 running back, although I think there is a chance the Bills are still in the market for a veteran running back. I saw rumors out there about an AFC team sniffing around Dalvin Cook. I saw James Cook's tweet about Dalvin Cook. Look, I get the appeal of Dalvin Cook. I get the appeal of Derrick Henry. If you're a fantasy football player, much like myself, those guys have probably won you a lot of money in your lifetime, and they are superstars in this league. But I do not feel that adding a superstar aging running back to this offense is what ails this offense. I think the Bills have good ball carriers in James Cook and Naheem Hines, and they can get by with what they have, maybe adding a veteran to the mix like a Damian Harris or a Jamal Williams, a much more cost-efficient running back to the room, or even a day 3 pick, and hope you can get lucky like the Chiefs did with Isaiah Pacheco. Other than that, I still think that the Bills are going to try to find a wide receiver. There's been rumors out there that Denver is shopping Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. I would expect the Bills to at least be engaged in those conversations. I would not necessarily predict that they come away with either one of those players. We know DeAndre Hopkins is on the market. Again, I think the Bills could be engaged there. I don't think that that's something that we're going to see the Bills ultimately come away with. My favorite wide receiver idea for the Bills is Paris Campbell. Over 70% of the snaps in the slot last year. He really came on strong for the Colts in the final year of his deal. First 3 years of his career, he was hampered by injuries before he finally burst onto the scene last year. 4.31 speed. This guy, I think, is ascending right now, and I think you can still get him at a bit of a discount because other teams are going to be concerned about his injury history through the first 3 years of his career. It is interesting that not one wide receiver signed on Monday, at least at the time that I'm recording this, as we are all frantically refreshing Twitter. So what I expect from the Bills on Tuesday, I do think that they're going to dip their toe into the tackle market. At some point, they're going to have to get themselves a backup quarterback. My favorite name for them there is Kyle Allen. When you're talking about swing tackles, George Fant is a name that is very interesting to me. He played very well for the Jets back in 2021, struggled in 2022 when they really moved him from right to left tackle, and then he had a bunch of injuries along the way. I also like a tackle from the Raiders, Tremaine Edmunds. Now, he has been throughout his career a swing tackle. He's been a journeyman, has been on 3 different teams. He's only 28 years old, but this past year for the Raiders, he finally got the opportunity to start. And from week 7 on, he had the 4th best pass block grade among right tackles. Look, tackles are hard to find. We just saw Dillard from the Eagles get 10 million APY. Teams cannot find tackles, so they are willing to overpay anybody that gives them hope. So I think Illuminaire probably is going to get paid by somebody that prices him out of Buffalo. But if he stays on the market long enough, that's somebody that would really interest me. Let me know in the comments what you want the Bills to do with this extra money they freed up from restructuring Von Miller and Josh Allen. Keep in mind, they can also trade Ed Oliver at any point and free up an additional 10.7 to really get things stirring and really be able to attack the offensive side of the football with some weapons and some additional offensive linemen. Let us know how you're feeling about the Bills. Are you upset about Tremaine Edmunds going? Are you nervous about Jordan Poyer? How are you feeling, Bills fans? I know day 1 of free agency is a whirlwind. It can be an emotional roller coaster. We are here for you at Built in Buffalo to help navigate you through this entire offseason. Free agency day 1 is in the books. Let's all take a deep breath. We made it. We lost a player we love. We got a new offensive lineman that should help protect Josh Allen. And I have a feeling that we're going to be back tomorrow night talking about some new players on the Buffalo Bills and maybe, just maybe, a fan favorite safety no longer part of this team. Thanks for tuning in. Please, please, please comment, like, and subscribe. It helps us so much with these videos, and we really appreciate it. And we will see you next time on Built in Buffalo Quick Hits.